one shot.
Hello, I want to welcome you all to another episode of The Intoxicants. We're in our Mystery Babylon series. We're, like I said before, we're building on one thing after the other. You can kind of go into all this information from these different angles, really. But I'm trying to build something to where it's a lot easier to understand. Okay. That being said, if you've enjoyed the episodes, please hit the like button, the share button. I want to get this information out to people. Hopefully give them some perspective for the times we're living in. But also become a subscriber on YouTube. You can do that and then receive notices whenever we post some things up there. Okay, that being said, let's go ahead and dive into our show here. Of course, we're looking at the Mystery Babylon, right? The harlot, the woman whom you saw, is that great city which reigns over the kings of the earth. And consider that this city, or this effort, you could say, we started to dig into it the last couple episodes, and where you could see there's an endeavor since the book of Genesis, the time thousands of years ago, by Nimrod, right after the flood, an endeavor to create a city and to unite a people, or conspire to go against God and basically build something that reaches into heaven. Okay. Whenever I think of heaven, more often than not nowadays, I think of it as another dimension, the eternal realm or eternal dimension. There's three heavens that are spoken of in the Bible. There's the heaven that's outside of our Earth's atmosphere. And this is where the angelic creatures or beings reside. There's probably more than that, but then also there's the third heaven where God has chosen to reside, and we gotta in some ways not think of it as God lives in that place or that realm as if it's bigger than him. The truth is he encompasses all things. So, but that being said, let's go ahead and go through some of this material here. Okay, so I was starting to give you some names for Mystery Babylon, and this is definitely something that's hard to kind of piece together at times. Because like I said, it's a labyrinth, and it's on like that on purpose to kind of confuse you, for you not to put the pieces together and see the truth or the big picture, etc. But some of the ones I gave you, there's secret societies. And I mean, those things go back into ancient times, really. A common name, the Illuminati, we've talked about that. And the most common one now is the deep state, I would say, but like I said, that one kind of narrows down the scope for most people and most people's perspective as what's going on here in our own country. But the reality is that this deep state is very often are united by secret societies and so forth. And they exist in every country, and that's why they're trying to pull every country into a new world order or a one world government. And the people involved in all these endeavors are also, doing the same thing for the beast as well as Mystery Babylon. But like I said earlier, our topic is Mystery Babylon. I already made the distinction of who the beast is, and I told you in an earlier episode that it was Islam and the area of nations that occupies the apple of God's eye. That's how it's always been, and that's how it still is today. And then we looked at some ways to view the dynamic between the harlot and the beast, but we didn't go into it too far. But let's look at what Mystery Babylon and what her aspirations are, what she uses, in fact, to kind of achieve her goals. She's got military aspirations. There's these are the goals here, and there are also things that they're already involved in, obviously, but they continue to increase in these areas. Military, diplomatic. Military one is probably the most obvious, really, with wars and such. Diplomatic, meaning they have international goals, which you could see through, a lot of the treaties that are struck up, deals, economic pacts and so forth, trade negotiations, all that kind of stuff, which also involves economic, which is on the list there. They got some goals to achieve things economically. Most of it, I think I've heard like a one world currency or something like that. Their most secret endeavors are within the intelligence agencies that have little to no let's say loyalty to their own country. They cross so many lines and gray areas that it's hard to tell them apart, to be honest. That especially in our time and in our country, and since President Trump has been, really since President Obama, because you could see a lot of their work outright, but especially you see them coming out with a vengeance against President Trump in the United States in so many ways. These intelligence agencies, as they're referred to, they're spy agencies, and so, but they also have these ones that are not as obvious to most people because they can work together without any conflict as far as with people wanting to look into it, and that's through their scientific endeavors. The things that they are conspiring to do in the scientific community are just astounding. I mean, you will be absolutely appalled at some of the things they're doing, and we're gonna talk about that in a future episode. But then the next maybe is their political aspirations within a country. The politics, the things that they're doing to exercise their authority and control, and why they're doing it. I think some people have a hard time believing that all these things exist because they don't see what the end game is. They don't understand what the goal is. And so we're also going to look at some of those things that they have in mind for us and the future of man. Okay. So, but the other aspiration they have, and to me, this is the biggest one and why I bring it up here, and especially with referencing Mystery Babylon or the harlot, is the religious aspirations that they have. And that is for worship. Okay. Look what it says in Revelations 13:8. It says, all who dwell on the earth will worship him, whose names have not been written in the book of life of the Lamb slain from the foundation of the world. So who is it referring to? Well, it's talking about the Antichrist person, which, without going into too much, I'm going to say involves that character Nimrod or Apollo, who was actually released from the bottomless pit elsewhere in the book of Revelation. So his spirit, you could say, comes out of there at the end times and wreaks havoc on the earth, and we'll look into that eventually as well. But let's look further. What is it that it's doing? It's affecting and infecting society, and there's no doubt. How is Mystery Babylon doing that? Some people, you might ask, besides their goals and the things that maybe are obvious, what is some of the reason or the purpose that they're doing all this? Okay, and you could look at some of it right here in Genesis 1:26, where the Trinity, the Godhead, says, Father, Son, Holy Spirit. They say, then God said, let us make man in what? Our image, according to our likeness, and let them have dominion over the earth. Okay, etc. And so, what are they doing? Well, in order for Mystery Babylon, or these secret societies, etc., Illuminati, however you want to name them, in order for them to achieve their goals, they are you could say reversing some of what it says here in Genesis. And God made man in his image, so they're trying to change the image of what man is supposed to be like. They don't want us knowing that we were made to be like God. And the reason why we're in his likeness is so that we can have a relationship with him. A relationship with God for us, leads to life eternal. but it also means their demise because they're rejecting God at the same time. And so, they know that they're not going to have part in that. They're trying to actually have their, let's say, the lie in the garden, the things that Satan told Adam and Eve in the garden, that they would be like God. Well, they already were. And that, they would be, basically they would be eternal beings. Well, they already were then. It was a matter of who, not where they would spend eternity, but who and how they would be eternal. Would be like, they would be God's people, and they would be made eternal by being given life, everlasting life. Okay, so, but the enemy right here, through Mystery Babylon, or the harlot, wants to corrupt the image, wants to, change our likeness. In other words, when it's talking about likeness, talking about relationship, wants us to relate to other things, which is idolatry, and then wants to take away our dominion and for themselves, which is the authority that we've been granted. Amen. So let's look at the next one. They have, and this is just an overview, when let's say aspects for accomplishing their aspirations. So what do they need to accomplish it? Well, they have a vision, they have a religion, and they have their government, and then their army. Okay. In a modern world, you almost would think, well, they can't go about the military that obvious. And the fact is, they actually kind of do. By now, they just, the deep state, Illuminati, will just label a country, being ruled by a dictator. They would do basically what they're doing here today is they would pay off a bunch of people to protest, which turns into riots, which makes the governing personnel, be it a president or whoever, have to use military force in order to squash the resistance. And then once they do that, our country, or not just our country, but the deep state within our country, and maybe within the United Nations or the world, whatever, labels that person a dictator, and basically they authorize themselves to go and, we say, open up a can of democracy on them, because he's a dictator oppressing his people. The truth is, many of them have worked with the deep state to begin with, and at some point they get overthrown themselves, because the deep state very often will exchange their authority figures, let's say their loyalties rather. They can switch sometimes from the beast to the harlot of who controls any particular country. But you can look at these countries and, where you see like North Vietnam, South Vietnam, North Korea, South Korea, Iran versus Iraq. And, you can see where they've caused a great division, and they use these things to cause it. Okay. They use religion, they use government, they use military force, but especially their vision. Okay, real quick, I want you to hear this speech. Okay,
ladies and gentlemen, the very word secrecy is repugnant in a free and open society, and we are, as a people, inherently and historically opposed to secret societies, to secret oaths, and to secret proceedings. We decided long ago that the dangers of excessive and unwarranted concealment of pertinent facts far outweighed the dangers which are cited to justify it. Even today, there is little value in opposing the threat of a closed society by imitating its arbitrary restrictions. Even today, there is little value in ensuring the survival of our nation if our traditions do not survive with it. And there is very grave danger that an announced need for increased security will be seized upon by those anxious to expand its meaning to the very limits of official censorship and concealment. That I do not intend to permit to the extent that it's in my control. And no official of my administration, whether his rank is high or low, civilian or military, should interpret my words here tonight as an excuse to censor the news, to stifle dissent, to cover up our mistakes, or to withhold from the press and the public the facts they deserve to know.
Listen to this part right here.
We are opposed around the world by a monolithic and ruthless conspiracy that relies primarily on covert means for expanding its sphere of influence, on infiltration instead of invasion, on subversion instead of elections, on intimidation instead of free choice, on guerrillas by night instead of armies by day. It is a system which has conscripted vast human and material resources into the building of a tightly knit, highly efficient machine that combines military, diplomatic, intelligence, economic, scientific, and political operations. Its preparations are concealed, not published. Its mistakes are buried, not headlined. Its dissenters are silenced, not praised. No expenditure is questioned, no rumor is printed, no secret is revealed. No president should fear public scrutiny of his program, for from that scrutiny comes understanding, and from that understanding comes support or opposition, and both are necessary.
Okay,
But
so
I am asking your help.
so I'm going to cut it off right there, but you can see, you know, I don't know how many times I might have heard that in the past prior to knowing this information, but I never realized or understood what exactly he was saying. So I have it right here, you know, and you can see that's where I got some of the headings as far as what they have in their arsenal, so to speak. But this part right here, especially, it says, he said, we are opposed around the world. In other words, it's a worldwide by a monolithic and ruthless what? Conspiracy that relies on covert means for expanding its sphere of influence, on infiltration. And that's what they do. They subvert, they infiltrate. This is where the deep state picture comes in, or rather the deep state term is gotten from. But they have material resources. They're tightly knit and highly efficient, and they have loyalties to one another. In fact, whenever you look or you research some of these secret societies, you'll understand that they have degrees and they have initiation rites, and they have rituals, especially the rituals as they continue to elevate or go up in levels to the degree that they've sold themselves out to this worldwide conspiracy. And it gets really nefarious and very satanic as they continue to move up the ladder. Okay, so let's look at this other quote. This says it was 7 days before he was assassinated, and he says there's a plot in this country to enslave every man, woman, and child. Before I leave this high and noble office, I tend to expose this plot. In fact, he did, and but you know, there was a problem of why, you know, that kind of information, or you know, they've made so many documentaries and movies and different things about this man's life, and you know what he was trying to do. And this is the actual reason why he was assassinated, because he was going to expose basically the deep state / Illuminati / Satanists / Luciferians, cabals, secret societies, etc. That was the monolithic, ruthless conspirators group here, and so you know, that was something he was bound to do, and so they took him out for it.